The last thing on John's mind was getting locked inside the theater. But that's exactly what happened when he stepped into the gleaming new movie theater on the edge of town. It was called the theater, and it promised an experience like no other. The newest movies, the most variety of candies, chocolates, entrees, and the most cutting-edge technology for viewing. John had just finished watching one of the movies and was heading for the exit when a voice came over the intercom. "Attention all customers," a woman's voice said, her tone laced with fear. "I'm sorry, but the theater is now closed. Please remain where you are and stay out of the way." John stopped in his tracks, his heart racing. Something was off about this announcement. Why would the theater close early without warning? He looked around and saw that other customers were starting to panic. Some were trying to force the doors open, while others were frantically searching for another way out. John knew he had to keep a cool head if he was going to make it out of this alive. He began to make his way towards the back of the theater, where he remembered seeing another exit that read "emergency exit." Maybe he could find a way out through there. But as he rounded the corner, he came face to face with a group of men in dark uniforms, their eyes glowing eerily in the dim light. John froze, not sure what to do. Then he noticed that one of the men was holding a strange device in his hand. It was a long metal rod with a glowing crystal at the end. "What is that?" John asked, his voice shaking. "It's a containment field generator," the man replied, his voice cold and flat. "We're here to capture the creatures that have taken over this movie theater." John's mind raced. Creatures? What was going on here? He turned to run, but it was too late. The man with the containment field generator activated it, and John felt a strange energy envelop him. He tried to struggle, but it was no use. He was trapped. As he was escorted deeper into the theater, John saw that the walls had posters he had never seen before with exotic creatures on them. And then he saw them. The monsters. They were strange, writhing masses of tentacles and eyes, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. John realized with a sinking feeling that he was in the middle of some kind of interdimensional invasion. And he was the only one left to stop it. He gathered all his strength and made a break for it, dodging past the creatures and the containment professionals as he frantically searched for a way out. But just when he thought he was in the clear, he felt a sharp pain in his leg and fell to the ground. He looked down and saw a creature attached to his leg, its tentacles burrowing into his flesh. John screamed in pain and terror as he felt his life slipping away. Just as he was about to succumb to the pain and injection, he heard a voice calling his name. It was the woman from the intercom, and she was running towards him with a strange device in her hand. "Hold on," she shouted. "I've got a depowering field generator." She activated the device, and the creature attached to John's leg let out a high-pitched whine and vanished. John gasped for air as the woman helped him to his feet. "Come on," she said, her voice urgent. "We have to get out of here before the others come back," she said, pulling John towards the loading dock. "I'm sorry I couldn't warn you earlier. The containment group has been under the control of these creatures for weeks now. They made me make that announcement so that they could capture more people like you." John's head was spinning as he tried to process this new information. "What are these things?" he asked. "They're from another dimension," the woman said, leading John towards a small door at the back of theater. "They're called the Zerax. They've been coming through portals and taking over movie theaters like this one all over the country. They use the containment group to lure in unsuspecting customers and then capture them for their own twisted purposes." John's heart raced as he followed the woman through the door and out into the rain-soaked night. "What do they want with us?" he asked. "I don't know," the woman said, leading John towards a battered pickup truck. "But I've seen what they do to people, and it's not pretty. We have to get as far away from here as possible before they realize we're gone. John climbed into the truck, his mind racing as he tried to come up with a plan. He had to stop these creatures and save the other people trapped inside the theater. But how? As the woman started the truck and pulled out of the parking lot, John's thoughts were interrupted by a loud crash. He turned to see the Xerax bursting through the loading dock door, their tentacles writhing as they screeched in rage. "They're coming after us!" John shouted. "Hang on," the woman shouted, flooring the gas pedal as the truck roared down the empty road. John clutched the door handle as the truck swerved and bounced over the rough terrain, the Xerax hot on their tail. He knew they couldn't outrun them forever. He had to come up with a plan, and fast. Suddenly, an idea came to him. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, flipping it open and typing in a message as fast as he could. "I know how to stop the Xerax," he typed. "We need to get to the nearest military base. I know someone there who can help us." He hit send, hoping that his message would make it through the storm and the Xerax's interference. Then he braced himself for whatever came next. The truck raced through the night, chased by the creatures from another dimension. John knew it was only a matter of time before they caught up. But he was ready to fight for his life and the lives of the people trapped in the movie theater. He just hoped that his message had gotten through, and that help was on the way. John's message had indeed gotten through, and help was on the way. A team of soldiers arrived at the theater just in time to rescue the remaining people and fight off the Xerax. It was a fierce battle, but in the end, the humans emerged victorious. As the Xerax were driven back through the portal from which they had come, John stood on the battlefield, exhausted but triumphant. He had saved the day, and he knew that he would never forget this night. But as he looked around at the devastation left behind by the creatures, he couldn't help but wonder how many other movie theaters like the theater were out there, waiting to be invaded by the Xerax. How many more people were in danger, trapped in a world they didn't understand, with no way out? John made a vow to himself to do whatever it took to stop the Xerax and protect the people of Earth. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was ready for the challenge. As the soldiers loaded the survivors into the trucks and headed back to base, John couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose and determination welling up inside him. He was a hero now, and he knew that he would do whatever it took to keep the people of his world safe from harm. But as they drove through the night, John started to feel a strange pain in his chest. At first, he thought it was just the adrenaline wearing off, but as the pain grew stronger, he realized that something was wrong. He tried to speak up, to tell the others that he needed help, but his mouth wouldn't move. He couldn't even lift his head off the truck's bench seat. He was trapped in his own body, unable to move or speak. As the others looked on in horror, John's vision began to fade. He knew that he was dying, and there was nothing he could do about it. The last thing he saw before his vision faded was the woman who had saved him, her face contorted in grief and rage as she realized that the Xerax had won after all.